Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call, and I am joined today by my brother, the Gritty Broman. How are you, Brent?
I'm well, thank you.
Right on. We are back. I am back. Brent's back. We're both back. I'm back fresh from like a month of bear hunting, roughly. And it was epic. We had some incredible experiences like we do every season. We went to some remote places, got into some places that most humans will never see. We had some encounters with wolves, which resulted in perhaps maybe a wolf taken, but that's a story we haven't got into yet. Also, we got into some country with Drizz, and we had some Drizz encounters, which were pretty intense. So we've got some of that as well. And then we all took some beautiful black bears in some beautiful country. In fact, Ryan, we were able to hunt down Red Lightning, relocate him from last year, and Chocolate 2.0 from one of our later hunts that we did. We actually found both those bears in the same general area. And we took them.
Did you?
Yeah, we got them both. So it's pretty crazy. It's interesting. We wondered if these bears would be in the same area, similar time of year as they were the year before, or would they be miles from that spot in another spot? A lot of times you can find mule deer in the same area or elk in the same area year over year. Bears, I think it's also the case. I mean, we demonstrated that on this hunt. I think that there's possibilities that bears get pushed out here and there. But Ryan and I talked about it, and the older bears probably don't move much. I mean, they're the boss. They own that area. I don't know how old these two bears were, but they're mature and they're big and they're bossy in those areas. And I suspect that they kind of own the basins there, and it's prime country because they're the big boars in the area. And I think that so you're going to find them year over year in those places. So anyway, pretty cool. But today's podcast is actually about Initial Ascent backpacks. I have my Seek Outside backpack is still being built. I should get it sometime soon. Kevin Tim should be sending it to me, and I'm going to rock with that one as soon as I get it. I haven't actually tested it and put it through the paces. This podcast is with the founders and the owners of Initial Ascent, Dennis Stokes and Joe Elliston. And we get together. They actually came down here. This is about 2 months old almost, this podcast. They actually came down here, hung out. We went over the pack. They broke it down for me, kind of how they came up with the design, that we go over that, how the company came to be, what the design is based on. This is not like a Me Too pack. It's quite unique in every way from like another pack. And I was saying that the other day, when you compare, for example, a Seek Outside backpack to a Initial Ascent, and then to maybe the other packs, the Initial Ascent and Seek Outside are vastly different from the other platforms. I would say there's some similarities between like a Kifaru XO and a Stone in the way that their frames are built. Different though, especially I'd say Stone Glacier is quite a bit different from a Kifaru. I would say, but more similar. I mean, this Initial Ascent is super unique. So same with Seek Outside. Like I said, I haven't tested the Seek just yet, haven't run it, but I'm basically back from using the Initial Ascent for 4 weeks. So I'm going to record a podcast and let y'all know what my impressions are, where I'm at with this pack. But before I do that, I want you to get introduced to the owners, and I want you to get introduced to the whole idea. Like, I think that this podcast you're about to hear is extremely useful for setting a foundation. And then I'll follow up right away with a review of how it performed. Just early, just to give you a quick, I mean, I was impressed. It performed really well. It has its strengths and it has its weaknesses, just like my Stone, just like any other pack I've ever used. And I'll go over that. But overall, this is a winner. This is a sweet pack. Especially, I mean, in my opinion, this pack, the heavier the load, the more it shines. Period. period. It just because of the nature of its design. And I tend to have to carry heavy loads because we kill stuff in remote places. So I'm happy. Plus the design of it's different, like pockets, zippers, buckles, frame, and how it breaks down. It's pretty interesting how I was able to leverage it and use it. What I found works really well with it. I have a lot of things I want to see changed, mostly the surface level things that I want to see changed or tweaked here and there that I think would improve the design. But I'm really impressed with what I've used so far. So with that said, let's dive into today's podcast. But before we do, I want to remind you to check out some of our partners that are supporting our show. It's hunting season. If you need some trekking poles, which everybody needs them, get yourself some sissy sticks over at Peaks. Use the code GRITTY and you can save. Get yourself gaiters. We used our gaiters a lot out there from Peaks, and I think Peaks gaiter is top of the line right now. Durability, comfort, how well it's built, how it keeps the water out, how it formed. I mean, and we've really tried to just hammer these things. I think they're built on another level. So great gaiter. Check both those things out from Peaks. Use the code GRITTY and you'll save there. And anyone who's not using trekking poles, I don't know how on earth you're surviving. And you can see from these upcoming hunts, I mean, we're using our trekking poles to pitch tarps in the rain. We're using them, multi-purpose. We're glassing off of them often, just using them as instead of having a tripod right there. A lot of times my tripod is being used by the camera, and then I can glass with my binos on my trekking poles. But they're versatile and they're just necessary, especially climbing and going down hills. You become like a four-legged animal with trekking poles instead of a two-legged animal. It makes a difference when your load is heavy. Makes a big difference. So check those out. And then use the code GRITTY over at Stealthy Nutrition and get yourself some Stealthy Nutrition supplements. There's some cool stuff over there that I've been using. I went over it in another podcast. Check that out. Also check out Mountain Ops. I used on this last trip, I used a lot of Mountain Ops Ignite. I like Pink Lemonade and Citrus Bliss. It's a product I use all the time.
Have you tried the new key lime pie?
I have not.
It's weird.
But
it smells like when you open it smells like pastry. It smells like pie.
Really?
Like I can smell crust.
Yeah.
And then when you taste it, it's just like this limey.
Good, bad.
If it's ice cold, I will not drink it with warm. I won't drink it warm. Warm, it's none
of it's really right warm.
Yeah.
But
ice cold, it's a delicacy. It's delicious. But room temperature, it's kind of
blah.
It's still good.
Meh.
It's just not my favorite.
Yeah.
But if I'm trying to cover up like elk piss in my water, it'd probably do the trick.
So there's that. And blaze shots, I rock with those, especially on long drives. I seem to like those. Check out the bars that Mountain Ops has. Yeti pre-workout. I use that all the time too. Use the code GRITTY for an alpaca raft. We use that raft all the time. Use the code GRITTY at alpaca raft. You're going to save 10%, which is $100 to $200 on your raft purchase. And man, I don't know how anybody is going into remote epic places without a raft. They're 5 pounds. Mm-hmm. We pretty much don't go anywhere without rafts, and use the code GRITTY for canvas cutter bed rolls. We use those on this hunt extensively. Every time we roll back to the trailer, I got my little utility trailer with 4 cots set up in there. Adam Weatherby crashed in there, Brad Hunt, and Ryan Lampers and myself on all the beds. And we've got the canvas cutter bed rolls rolled out. And they could go outside, but we had the trailers. They're just comfy. They're nice to have. They're useful. It's a product I highly recommend, especially when we leave our gear, which we did a couple times, set up and back in the mountains, and we just hike back with meat. We already have like an alternative sleeping bag, bedroll, everything set up and ready to rock right there. So it's very useful. And then we hunted with Mark Livesey and his llamas on the second leg of our hunt. And I want llamas, period. Ryan and I are scheming on how to get llamas. It's such a topic to cover, like all in its own, but this was the true test for me, using them, being with them, having them around. And, oh, dude, his llamas, I don't have any other experience. His llamas have me sold.
Yeah?
Yeah. They were the coolest, simple, low maintenance critters,
Better
quiet,
than goats?
but way better than goats. Well, I mean, they're different, but the things that annoy me about goats will be different than llamas. I think llamas annoy me a lot less than goats do. Goats are funny and they're fun to watch, and they're real characters. Llamas just sat there like a camel and didn't move. Maybe I'm old, but dude, I like that they're just quiet and don't bother me.
Yep.
It was like you didn't even know they were there. So, but Mark Livesey is the producer of e-scouting courses that are off the hook, legit. Treeline Pursuits is the name of his company, and his e-scouting courses are there. Elk season is coming up, and his elk scouting classes are top of the line, top shelf. You're going to learn so much about all the different apps, not just OnX Maps, which a lot of you are familiar with, but he's going to also teach you about Google Earth, about Gaia, and other apps that are super useful. And he's going to really tell you how to map into places and find elk remotely, so that you have your in and out routes. You have water sources pre-picked out. You have 1, 2, and 3 hunting backup plans when things don't work out, which we had to go on backup plans on a few things because roads got snowed in or trees fell and blocked roads, and we had to switch hunt plans a couple of times because hunters were already there. All of that stuff, Mark kind of walks you through it, as well as elk finding features, like what are the things that elk are looking for, so that you can get into some country. He's working on other modules like mule deer and bear. He's working on those right now, and those will come out soon. But use the code GRITTY at Treeline Pursuits and get yourself the online classes. They're worth every penny. All right. I've talked enough. Check out this podcast. Hope you like it. Stay gritty. All right, folks. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I am your host, Brian Call. And today I am joined by the fellows from Initial Ascent. We got Dennis Stokes, and we've got Elliston. We've got Joe Elliston. What is Elliston? Is that like it's just Irish?
A whole bunch
Scottish?
of things.
Something?
It's a recipe of disaster. How about that?
And Stokes. What is Stokes?
It's the same thing. Yeah.
So you got disaster 1, disaster 2.
Yeah.
So you guys are with Initial Ascent Packs. You guys are the owners of Initial Ascent. And I've met you, Dennis, primarily. I met you through, I've seen your packs. I remember the first time I saw your packs was the first time you were at the Western Hunt Expo. I was rolling in through the back doors, so I had secret access. And you guys are setting up back there. And I saw the packs, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Because I liked the look and the feel of what you guys are doing. And I think we might have shook hands even and talked for just a minute. And then over the years, I've been seeing you pop up. And a friend of ours, a good friend of mine, Dave Baronio, he's good friends of Lampers. Through him and observing his use of your packs, it piqued my interest. And then, of course, Ryan had you, Dennis, at the Western Hunting Summit that he puts on. So we've been kind of, just through the industry and whatnot, getting to know each other a little bit. And I got one of your packs. Ryan mentioned the packs, and so I got one of your packs and started running it a little bit, testing it out. And it's a really interesting design. And then, of course, I really do value Dave Baronio. That dude is a stud. Not just in terms of, and for people who don't know, Dave won the Train to Hunt a couple of times. He's just an animal, a machine, and then just a solid human being. Yeah. He's been on the Hunt Harvest Health podcast multiple times. He's very close friends with Ryan and Hillary. Tremendous respect for Dave and what he does. So I value his opinion a lot, and he has really been a big part of what you guys have done and built. And so it really did pique my interest, and here we are now. And I wanted to basically have you guys on the podcast so that my audience and myself can learn more about the packs, because this is new for me. I'm going to get your story here. I'm going to learn about how you came up with what you came up with, why, and go through some of the packs you've got right here. And I think the audience, we're just all going to learn together right now. So,
yeah, sounds awesome.
We can talk about how Dave came up with the pack and the timing of that whole thing once we get there.
Man, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about yourselves. So Joe,
Sure.
Where are you from and how old are you? And
So I'm officially 50. Had the big 5-0 this year.
you look pretty young. Like there's not a lot of gray and stuff. I mean,
There's things for that.
I know. I think that ship sailed for me. Like it's kind of, by the time that I noticed the gray, I was like, I can't go back now.
Yeah, you're committed. So yeah, so I live up in just outside of Boise.
Mm-hmm.
We moved up there in 2004 and just never looked back. I mean, Boise is just, I grew up in Kansas.
Okay.
So kind of a flatlander, and moved out west, and I was down in Vegas for a while before that. So it felt really good to move up into Idaho, and it's been an absolute blessing. It opened my whole eyes up to a totally different type of hunting than what I grew up with, right?
Yeah.
I grew up mostly bird hunting, waterfowl hunting, things like that. A little bit of deer hunting, but not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And moved out west, and I'll never forget the first time I put a pack on, which was something I'd never really done, and headed up in the mountains, and the learning curve started.
Well, I want to get into that in a minute here. What made you guys think you were qualified to make a pack?
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated by people who launch companies and what goes into it and how they did it and all that. I think entrepreneurship is a fascinating subject. I'm just that way at heart. So I want to get into that. But Dennis, what about you?
So I'm originally from Florida, and by way of Alabama.
I should have known. Yeah.
So I grew up on a small hobby farm, I guess, if you will, and then I hunted, fished. I did all the country boy things. We lived out on dirt road, and grew up hog hunting with my dad. I grew up whitetail hunting, doing all that, trying to dodge snakes, killed snakes, catching gators, different things like that. And then, just grew up doing that, and then moved up to Alabama. I played football in college for a few years, and then once I graduated from grad school, we got married. My wife and I got married on a Saturday, and on Monday we moved to Idaho.
Okay.
In 2 separate vehicles. That was the honeymoon.
So exactly what brought each of you to Idaho?
So work for me brought me up there.
Same for me.
Yep. Both. Mm-hmm. And what's your livelihoods before you decided to launch this business?
So go ahead.
I'm a dairy nutritionist, so I worked with dairy cows and balanced diets, and I do management consulting for mostly larger dairies out in the West. So
crazy.
Yeah.
Grad school. That's too much school, bro. Like that was. I'm like. That many days in school, I'm out. A 4-year degree was it for me. I got the bachelor's. I'm like, I'm blowing smoke here. I'm out.
I know. It was
That's dedication.
It was, and I knew I wanted to go into some sort of cow nutrition because I grew up around cows and had always been around them and liked them and that sort of thing. So I didn't want to be a veterinarian. So I wanted to be in the nutrition world. So I could go to either beef or dairy. And I got out to Idaho and saw the light with the dairies and that sort of thing, and how satisfying that was.
Wow!
And I've been doing it ever since. Got
That's
my own
cool. Joe, you and Dennis, when you talked about work brought you out to Idaho, but I'm sure you had options. Did you want to be in Idaho?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember I was in Idaho in 1998. My wife and I were up there.
Yeah.
And I can literally remember going on the Greenbelt. We had stayed downtown Boise. Just fell in love with the Greenbelt, which goes right along the river there. I remember looking out the window, watching my wife take off on a run. And when she got back, we literally cut out of a magazine that said, "Welcome to Idaho." And we thought someday, somehow, we want to move up there. And we fell in love with it then and still love it today.
Wow.
Me, I didn't know the difference between Idaho and Iowa.
Corn, potatoes.
I suppose you're so far south and
oh my word,
east.
I was so sheltered down there.
Yeah,
but that was life down there. But going to Idaho on that first visit, the company that I was going to work for flew me out, and it was eye opening. It was such a difference from what I was used to. There was no humidity for one day, which was awesome. And there were mountains. Yeah. So. I fell in love with Idaho as soon as I got there. So
you guys told me offline, you guys met each other through church.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
That's how you met. Mm-hmm. How did the whole backpack thing come to be?
Sure.
Because, before that, I suppose, tell me your hunting journey. Because, Joe, you were saying it was mostly upland and stuff like that. And you're hunting crocodiles? Alligators? Right. There's no crocs in Florida. But
there was a lot of whitetail there too.
Okay, but like mini whitetail, from what I heard.
Mini whitetail, they're about the size of dogs, and there's a lot of them, just no big ones.
The ones in Alabama are like on crack. They're looking around. They're schizophrenic. They're nuts
because everybody's shooting at them.
Yeah.
You can shoot a lot of them down there.
Yeah,
well, I remember growing up. I mean, you could shoot a buck a day, and this was a season that would go from. They would open it up.
Your limit's like fishing.
Right. No kidding. Yeah. They would open it up Thanksgiving weekend, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, buck a day, and then it would open up again December 10th, somewhere around there. And then we would have a doe weekend where you could kill a buck a day during
weird.
I know. And the weekend you could kill 2 does on Saturday, 2 does on
Maybe
Sunday.
You keep track of all these rules, though.
Man.
No kidding. And you could hunt all the way clear to January 31st, a buck a day.
That's a lot of meat.
So needless to say, there were no mature bucks anywhere within 500 square miles of where I lived.
Man.
So,
yeah, and for me, I grew up, like I said, waterfowl hunting. Mm-hmm. Didn't do a lot of, big game hunting at all until I moved to Idaho. That was really when I first started doing that, but I always had a passion for doing stuff in the outdoors, just didn't have quite the opportunities based on geography back then. So
tell me how the backpack thing came to be. How did that come into being?
Sure. So, kind of talked about how we met a little bit at church. Mm-hmm. And from there, literally, it was at one of our kids' football practice. Dennis and I struck up a conversation and started just getting to know each other. Mm-hmm. And, then you start coming a couple times a week to practice, getting to know each other. I think we ended up doing a couple hunts together. And that's when, and then we were in a small group together. And our friendship just kind of started to develop. And then when we started doing some hunts together, we started to realize we had a lot of similarities in how we would like to hunt. Mm-hmm. And then the things about the gear, we started to understand, okay, I like this about this. And we just started having conversation about it.
Right.
And that just continued, and we both had a bunch of different packs that we had tried out. Endless amounts of packs.
I'd owned about every one of them.
And every one that he had that I didn't have, we'd switch them around and try them out, and it was just this constant back and forth, trying stuff out. And we had talked about, there was one feature on a pack that I made a comment, that'd be cool to make a seat out of that. And I remember Dennis saying, you should start a backpack company. I said, we should do it together. And it was it. It was just a small talk, right?
Right.
Nothing really came of it.
Yeah.
And then from there, we just continued to hunt. And our family started going to the Western Hunt Expo together. And that became something that the families look forward to every year. So we'd bring our kids, we'd come down here and just enjoy it, as consumers, and just fell in love with it, walking around. And we kind of,
just the animals on display, or you could just walk around for hours looking at that.
For me, it was the gear. Yeah. I've been a gearhead from way back, and I had to have everything that was the latest and the greatest, right? So for me, it was going to each company's booth and looking to see what they had new that year and checking things out. And we would always go to the different backpack booths, and it was intriguing how they were doing things, and but we always had these thoughts from our hunting experience and our backpack experience that there's just something missing, and for us, because it started out as basically a selfish thing for
wanted
us.
Something else, yeah.
But then we thought, there's probably other people out there like us. And so that's where it started. And so we knew we had to start with the foundation. And once we decided we were going to start a company, we said, let's start with the foundation. So we just started.
But back up, like how did you just start? Like decide, hey, we're gonna do this.
We're gonna do this. Yeah.
Like, watch this. Hold my beer.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
we're the experts here, right? We've got all this pedigree, as to why we should be doing this.
Right.
I mean, I think for us, it was really going to those shows, talking about it, right? And this was over multi-years, several years, going and just talking about it and what if. And then we actually ended up working with Boise State. We took it to that first step, and we sat down with them and said, hey, white sheet this. And we just said, what if we could develop a frame that would allow the pack to do this, 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 and this. And then that went from working with them up to a point, and this was well over a year. And then it went to working with another engineering firm that was just for a short period of time. But it got us to a point where we could actually have a testable prototype, right? And this would have been in about 2016. So then Dennis and I had a trip scheduled to New Zealand. And it's, lifetime, once in a lifetime type hunt. And we decided we were going to take our prototype frames on this once in a lifetime hunt.
Yeah.
So literally we had BSU, they cut these out, using a CNC machine, and it was a wood core.
Is Boise State
Yep.
University.
It was a wood core frame, kind of took on similar shapes to what we have today, wrapped it in fiberglass, and we rolled the dice, man, got on a plane and
went to New Zealand.
Lifetime trip.
Yep. No backups.
No backups. We just kind of went for it.
We did.
And backing up a little bit, me personally, I've had a back injury since college. And so I really had a tough time trying to find a pack that fit me. I mean, even from when I moved out to Idaho in 2000 and I got that first backpack, it took me, years to find anything that was even close to what I needed to be able to carry any weight without pain.
It's interesting because I have used, I think, every pack. Well, not every pack, but I've used a lot from the REI brands to all the ones in the hunting industry. And I've hunted with people who have used them all too. And I've been able to run their packs for an hour or two or just play with them. So I've messed around with a lot. So has Ryan Lampers. It amazes me how different when you compare Seek Outside, because I've got theirs, I'm running theirs. I'm running Stone Glacier. I've done the Kafaru. I've messed with the XO. Ryan has run the XO a lot. You have a lot of stuff out there. Mystery Ranch, that's another one. Eberly Stock, right? I wore Eberly Stock for a bit this year on a hike. I'm very curious. Each one of them comes to the table to accomplish the same objective, but with a totally different platform.
Right.
And you would think there would be a lot more Me Too or copying between the packs, but ironically, they're quite different from each other.
Yeah.
Yep.
When you stack, like a Seek Outside is his own little animal over here. And you look at the Stone and you look at that, and then you compare that to a Mystery Ranch, and it's really interesting. And I will say that a lot of the packs today have all elevated the game to they're a lot better than they were even just 5 years ago across the board. But I've been messing around with more and more with heavy loads, because that's really what I care about.
Yeah.
That's what I care about. I do not give a damn how it carries with 60 pounds anymore. They all carry nice, 50, 60 pounds. My typical backcountry pack for hunting 17 days or something. Ryan and I have done 15-day hunts. I could probably rock almost anything because my load's sub 80 pounds. And by the time I finish eating all that food, I'm 60 pounds or 55 pounds of load. But when you kill stuff and you're 12 miles in or 14 miles in and you got to bring your pack out plus the animal you've taken, now you're talking. That's what I want to know. Can your bag do it?
Yep.
Can your bag do it? And for a lot of people, I think they often buy bags and they never find out because they don't kill.
Yeah.
And that's not to knock on anybody, especially archery. It's tough. But that's where it matters.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about your back and issues there and getting packs that aren't fitting, what exactly were your complaints? What exactly wasn't working for you that was on the market at the time that you felt the need to improve on?
Yeah. So my back issue is in the lumbar section. Okay. And so I needed something that was going to support me and not drive that weight through that area. And that's what I couldn't find. I found if I were to take the pressure off that lumbar area, I was putting a whole lot more on my shoulders, which I couldn't do that. I couldn't sustain that for days on end. Mm-hmm. And the way we developed ours was I needed something. I needed a cushion. I needed something that was going to support. And by the time we got done with ours, selfishly, I felt like I had something that I could support myself. I mean, it would hug my hips. It would take that lumbar and offer protection, which is what I needed, which is what I didn't get. There would be lumbar pads that were way too hard. That was one reason why we went to the dual stage lumbar pad. We have a soft area that's going to be next to the body, and then we have a closed cell that's a little bit stiffer that's going to support. You're really going to feel that. So it's like a shock absorber. Two stage. And so I had to have that. And so I had a different driver behind my thoughts and ideas with that. And I think, Joe, you had very similar things, maybe without the pain.
Yeah, and mine was just the overall length of packs, right? I couldn't get one that would fit me very well because they're made for taller guys. I'm not a super tall dude. So that was always not having that flexibility to adjust for torso length was a big deal to me because now you're carrying all this weight on your shoulders and the hip belt's, around the, 6 inches lower than it should be. So if you lift it up, you're just constantly fighting this battle. And I started getting a fair amount of pain down the center of my back up high between the shoulder blades because it just wasn't a proper fit. Right. Just too big.
Right.
And
companies have to decide, are they going to make one with a adjustable torso that short?
Yep.
That's tough when you don't have the demand for it. And once you're committed to building that production line, how many are going to, some companies have tried to get around that by having a highly adjustable, deal where you can adjust it really way down. And that's sort of the idea that we sell one pack and you can just adjust it.
Sure.
But I haven't found something that really works like that. You need a certain frame to fit you. I haven't found very many that'll really meet that need. A lot of times what they'll do is a company will just change the stays for you and custom build them to suit your type. And then you can kind of adjust it from there, or they'll cut the frame and put it back together. And that was one of the problems that you came across.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest one was really it came down just to comfort.
Okay.
When we kind of put all that together, I would say just couldn't find a pack that was truly comfortable because of those different reasons. And then features on it. One of the things that drives me crazy is carrying a pack and you're carrying your rifle and it's sliding on you all day long, right? You still want quick access, so you're carrying it on your shoulder. Well, that was one of the things that we spent a lot of time on. We'll get into that in a little bit, just on taking that burden off of your shoulder and transferring that weight onto your frame. And
you guys are king for that.
Yeah.
With this design.
And then Dave took it to a different level.
Yeah. He took the concept that wasn't designed for that and just blew it up to, something totally different.
What's Dave say? Baronio.
Well, let's talk about how Dave was introduced to the pack. Okay. He's at the Train to Hunt Nationals on the morning of the heavy pack hike. And this heavy pack is, I think it was 100 pounds, 3 miles or something like that. And I may be wrong about this, but 3 miles and I think a couple thousand, maybe 3,000 feet of elevation gain. And he's trying.
Park.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's trying on his pack that he's been using in the hotel room, apparently. It's barreling. Okay, so it's digging in his spine, and he's just
Frame
satisfied.
isn't able to hold the load and
Correct.
keep its shape.
Correct. So
And as he cinches it down to keep it close to the body, it bends it outward
Yeah,
Right.
pushes in on
and
his
pushes
back.
in on your back.
right.
Yeah.
And so a friend of his actually had one of our packs, and he said, "Let me try that." And so he strapped the load in, and luckily they were the same hip belt size, and he adjusted the torso length to where it would fit him, and that was the introduction. And the friend of his called us. We were in South Dakota at something,
Yeah.
and called us and said, "Hey, Dave's about to use your pack in the meat pack portion of the Train to Hunt Nationals." I mean, I was like, I almost wet my pants.
Right.
Well, make sure he does this. Make sure he does this. I'm just scared to death because,
Right.
I mean, before now, I mean, we'd only heard of Dave.
Yeah, we
I mean,
did.
Hollywood Dave was,
It's Hollywood Dave, right?
Right,
I mean,
absolutely.
he's a
yeah.
legend.
So, legend. And so we ended up getting a video from that of him crossing the finish line, running. And I talked to him that next week on the phone. He says, "Man, I love it." And so
Like I said, it's all about those big weights.
Yeah.
How does it carry the big weights?
Yeah.
Yep.
It doesn't. That's where the packs struggle. And a lot of times back in the day, when you got a pack that could carry the big weight, it was a 12-pound pack.
Right.
Right? 10-pound pack. 12 is exaggerating, but it was that big, heavy
Heavy,
frame that could then carry the weight well. Well, you don't want an extra 7-8 pounds above what a pack so a lot of these packs can weigh now. On top of it's just weight.
Yeah.
What if it can carry that load but weigh 8 pounds lighter? That's what you wanted, and you started to see an evolution in packs.
for sure.
That's right. Technology is really advanced. I mean, I think about just even when we started our journey 2015-ish to when we launched 2018, the difference in materials in those 3 years, there was a transition in the resin material that we use that nobody else uses, that had that not happened, we could not perform at the level. So just in that 3-year window, that occurred, and that technology springboarded this frame to really, it's the most technically advanced frame out there on the market. To be able to carry on 19 ounces, a couple 100 pounds.
Right.
Right.
With confidence.
With confidence.
Yeah.
And, to go further on Dave, with his working with R&K Outfitters, he
He
started-
tests and tests
Oh,
and
man.
tests.
Oh, yeah.
Days in the
He's
field.
hauling more animals off the mountain than anybody.
He's an animal.
He is.
He's a freak.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Did he do Olympic? Was it?
Snow skiing.
Yeah.
Downhill. Yeah, he competed professionally on that.
Yeah, he makes you feel like not a man, and I feel like I'm manly.
And then he
So I'm
smiles.
just like,
He hugs you.
yeah,
you
you're
a
just
hug.
like, man, this guy. So I've seen him. Ryan showed me this early on.
Yeah.
This is probably a year and a half ago or something. He showed me Dave take the hindquarters of an elk and stick them on your frame
Right here.
through the hock.
Yep. Just hanging them right here. So when you think about when we designed this here, and this was really
Here, let me see that.
the last couple phases of our production before we launched, that was designed to carry your rifle sling up top there. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, that's what that was. Remember when I was saying I can't
Yeah,
stand
yeah.
the thing sliding? So no matter what, we were going to get that fixed before we launched. And it was right up to the 11th hour before we figured that out. But we figured it out. And Dave started, I don't know, maybe a year after he'd been running the
This
pack.
is crazy.
Isn't that crazy? 19 ounces.
This is crazy.
Yeah, he sent me a
This
video
frame.
the first day when he did that, and he did it with a deer, whole deer.
Yeah.
But hung the hindquarters and then had the rest of the deer strapped on there. He sent me a video and he said, "Hey, tomorrow I'm going to pack an elk." And again, I almost peed my pants.
Right.
Um,
That's a
Then he-
bone in on the rear quarters,
Yeah, it was-
hanging from here.
it was an entire cow. Every edible portion of the cow, bone in, he had strapped to that pack. And one of the things, and this is what Dave, loved about it. He says, when you hang it here, all of a sudden those hindquarters are coming up underneath your arms. Well, what does that do? That's
Center of gravity.
Center of gravity.
Down.
There is no
Not
other
away.
pack. The only way you can do that with other packs is to go out or up.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do that. You're hanging these things on the side.
I know. Ryan told me about that. He's like, Brian, could be like game changing, revolutionary, right? And you could justify it too, even though the bone weighs adds a little weight. But if it carries the way it needs to carry,
It doesn't.
it's all about leverage. It's all about mechanics.
Correct.
And so if it does hang from this like that and then moves forward, and you see it's kind of right there, center of gravity. I know from weightlifting, that center of gravity is everything.
Yeah.
You clean and jerk 300-pound barbell.
Right.
That thing needs to be center of center over your head. You try to jerk that thing and it's a little bit in front of you, you're not holding that up, right? It's all about those loads. I remember years ago, I'd gone hunting, and this was way back, I don't know. I was like 20, 21, out there with my dad, and shot an elk, and we decided we were going to pack this elk out. We brought pack boards.
Sure.
That's all we ran back then, because I'm 46 as well, going on 47 here soon. And you'd have those cheap, crappy ass like pack boards from Bi-Mart. I'm from the Northwest, so, and we'd load the things up on there. Well, we forgot the pack boards, and we didn't bring backpacks because we had fanny packs, because that was also dates us. So we had these like fanny packs with like suspenders, right, to help hold up the fanny pack. That was the thing then. So we go out and we kill these elk, my cousin Ben and I. Then we decide, okay, well, we don't have any packs because we left them, 4 hours away back in Portland, Oregon City. So we're like, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to like tie them to logs, and then we're going to like you carry the back end of the log, I'll carry the front. I don't know why we were so dumb back then, but there's no mechanical advantage to that at all. I think you would think that's pretty intuitive. That's a bad idea. Embarrassed to say that I didn't understand it or even dawn on me. I'd seen it on TV. It made sense, right? When they capture the prisoners in the jungle, they tie them to the log, and there's a dude on the front and a dude on the back, and they carry them along. It's like, okay, sure. Nobody does that. That's a dumb way to call something. So we try that for a little bit. It doesn't work. We're like swaying and we can hardly do it. Even if we load less. And so my dad shows up and he's like, what are you dummies doing? And he's a truck driver. He's mechanically, he's kind of he's a smart guy. He has all the calculus, geometry. He builds. He's an engineer type dude. He comes along and he's like, boys, you don't carry a load like that. That's not how it needs to be center of gravity. You need all these mechanical advantages, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, we don't have any packs. And he's like, you got rope. And so then he took the back quarter and he lashed it up and turned it into a backpack. Okay. So the bone's facing down and the heavy part is up above our shoulder blades. And he's got it all slung up and strapped and hung. And the rope, of course, dug in a little bit, but he doubled it up. But as soon as you put a hind quarter on your back in a backpack form, it was like, whoa, like this is actually very easy to haul. Yeah. The straps aren't comfortable, but other than that, fine. So we each carried a quarter out, and 4 of us, and it was it. We tried to carry those 4 quarters hanging off a log. It was so painfully difficult. Yeah. And that's where those little like mechanical advantages matter. Mm-hmm. So I can see how hanging them right there and having it come forward is pretty solid. Now, is this where you're talking about hanging the rifle as well?
So that's
what about up here?
Well, I mean, you could, but it's really designed to sling over right there.
Right there.
Yeah, but you could absolutely run it up over the tops up there if you wanted to. So if you're hanging quarters and you wanted to run it there, I mean, you can also attach the rifle or the bow on the back of the pack, and carry it that way as well.
So I talked to you earlier today saying aesthetically, this is foreign for people when they see it. Mm-hmm. Like for me as well, when I see this thing, I'm like, what are you guys trying to do here? Like, are you sure this is the right design? So how did you come up with it? And I talked to you earlier about, this is a little bit wider than your typical frames. Like if you look at a lot of frames on the market, like the Stone Glacier, for example, it doesn't go around the sides of your hips. It's literally like 5 inches across, right over your ass crack. And that's where all the weight carries. Mm-hmm. It doesn't wrap at all. Yours is way different.
It is. I mean, if you think about the shape of this, the top is wider than the bottom, right? And our bags actually follow that same design. So if we had a bag up here, you would see it goes this way.
Tapers down.
Mm-hmm. And the objective of that is, one, you spread the weight across the back if you're going to carry it on the backside, more of a traditional carry out, call it. But the other thing that it does, having that wider platform like we do, you don't have to worry about bones and stuff hitting you in the back, right? You've got a bigger space back there, surface area that protects you from that. And it helps you just spread that weight across your back, which is important because it goes back to the law of physics, right? If you come this direction, it gets exponentially heavier. Yep. It's not, it's a ton heavier.
That's why I put a lot of the weight up above my shoulder blades or right on my shoulder blades and down to the middle of my back. All the below that is all backpacks. It's all sleeping bags, pads,
Right.
the lightest weight, the clothing, my puffies, all of that in like garbage bags so I don't get blood on them or whatever. But all that stuff, the light goes there, and then all that heavy weight I try to stack up. And so then again, it's over my hips instead of over, hanging off my back and me using my abs to try to keep the pack upright, and I'm straining and I'm exhausted at the end of the day.
Right. And most packs they're kind of shaped like a tube, right? And when we designed our bags, we designed them not
square.
only it's more rectangular, I guess.
Yeah.
So if it's a little bit wider, it's also a little bit narrower, so it's closer to your back. And so it was designed, and it's actually in a wedge shape. So it's designed to keep that load up higher and closer to your back.
And if you look, Brian, if you turn that frame to a side, you can see it's got a nice bend in it. So it follows the natural curvature of the spine, which is important because that helps generate and push that weight into your hips also, because you want to carry the weight on your hips, not on your shoulders. So our goal with this design was to get 80% of the weight in the hips, 20% up top on the shoulders. So the other thing that also does is it gives you a nice airflow pocket on your back. So
I love.
Right.
Air conditioning.
I love it because I sweat like nobody's business. I'm a sweaty dude when I hike. And there's packs that allow for that pocket and packs that don't.
Right.
And I don't, for some reason, by the way, the packs that don't allow for that pocket, they're not adding any other value. Like they're not holding or carrying better. It seems like that gap is okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no question about it. I think it does help just drive that weight down into the hips, having that bend in there. So, that was all intentional in the design of it. And then you can see running down the center, you've got those 6 slots right in the middle, right? So what that allows you to do is to adjust your torso length, meaning your shoulder straps. We can move those up and down.
Right in here.
Wow,
that's quite a bit of adjustment right there.
Yep. And then you'll notice too, from a load lifter perspective, we've got 3. That's not very common to see, but it allows you, let's say you get a really heavy load like what you're carrying, you may want to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to raise it up to that next bar just to give me a little bit additional
because the load's so much heavier.
Because the load's so much heavier. Where most packs,
they're
flattened, right? And this gives you that extra lift.
That's cool.
Which is super important when you're carrying those heavy loads. So we really do feel like, you think about all of the engineering that went into this here to be able to come out with a product that's 19 ounces and to perform like it is, we feel like we hit a home run with it.
Okay, back to how did you guys come up with it?
Back to the long pedigree of a nutritionist.
Exactly. How did you come up with it?
Yeah.
I'm always curious about that stuff. Just a spark of brilliance in the moment, and you just happen to meet the right person at the right time, and that fed into it.
It was
because there's so many. This is not the design that people think when they think frame.
Right.
I don't know. I look at my old Dana Designs pack, and I look at the old aluminum frame stuff and external frames and so on. It's this doesn't come to mind.
No, I think when I drew my portion of it, I was thinking of a tree. It needed a strong trunk, and then not many branches, but just strong branches, strong main branches that came out, and then that's what the webbing would attach to, and that sort of thing. And I think you were thinking along those same lines with yours.
Also, and two, just the shape of the human anatomy, right? When we were designing this, you got your shoulders a little bit wider up top, and the natural human being tapers down, right? And
like a Greek god.
That's right.
That's right.
We were developing that for you and Dave Baronio.
Yeah, and Lambert's.
No, that makes total sense. Still, you look at what's a lot of the upper end packs today, and you just have a kind of a sewn structure with stays that slip into slots, and those are kind of the way that it's been done. So this diverges from that dramatically.
It does, and one of the advantages to that, having a rigid structure like this to attach your shoulder straps to, we actually use a 3-point locking system to adhere those shoulder straps to the frame. And the advantages going to the frame is it's rigid. It's not fabric. Fabric's going to stretch.
Yep.
So we've all done it, right? We've had those packs on that are attached to fabric.
Yep.
You go over deadfall. Well, you might go right with it because it's going to rotate.
Yep.
With this design here, having that 3-point locking where we actually run 2 webbing straps around the shoulder straps that go through the frame, plus the traditional Velcro, that thing is rock solid on your back. You do not get movement on your back. And that's a huge advantage when you're carrying heavy loads.
Right. That's why often I am attracted to an external frame pack of some kind, because I like all the lash points and the rigidity of it. And because I'm sitting here going, all right, I'm going to put both a tree stand on there and my whole camp for the week. Plus I'm going to put a pack raft, and I'm going to put my gun and maybe a bow too. And you start, I need lash points, man. I need to tie stuff on there. I'm fixing to carry 150 pounds for 8 miles. Like, I need to put some things on here.
Yep. And
you can't do that with a lot of what's there, I'd say, on that upper end stuff, because the frames are internal, and it's hard to lash that stuff on if it doesn't fit in the bag and in a pocket and in some kind of strap. You don't have a lot of other options. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that I was talking to Ryan. I can remember killing an elk, not this year, but last year. I was on a solo elk hunt. I had marched in pretty far. I hunted the whole time by myself. I had a couple days there where my cousin came in and then left, but I shot this bull solo. But in the course of that time, it was really thick where I was hunting, dense. It wasn't open country. This year was all open country. Last year, though, the year before, it was just thick. So I brought in a tree stand because I was like, I wanted to set up in a couple of spots. The wind could just swirl a lot. I want to get above the thermals, and really kind of work this. And then I ended up hiking in and out a few times. Before you knew it, I feel like I had the whole house back there. And then I killed this bull by myself. And then it became this arduous multi-day pack out. I remember there getting to the end, and I'm like, I just want to strap everything known to man on this right now. I don't want to make another trip.
Yeah.
I just need to be able to strap. And I was using a Stone Glacier, and I have some video of it. I've never posted it, but I have some video of it. Like, it's such a load. It's ridiculous. I think it's pushing 180.
Oh, man.
And the whole thing has, I'm trying to get the load distributed well, because I've got tree stand steps, tree stands, lone wolf steps, lone wolf stand. I've got, my bow, and now the whole teepee and stove and all, I got a whole thing there, plus all what's left of the elk that I'm packing out, and the antlers. I got this big head strapped on there with this tree stand. So I got it all strapped on, and then you have to get on the ground to try to get it off the ground. I sit down, and I'm just like, okay. So I get it on. It's a pretty, I think, remarkable feat. And then I waddle my way out, and every 100 yards I have to sit down on some kind of ledge or whatever, rest, and then get back up, just so I wouldn't have to do it twice, But I remember going, you know what? This stone actually lashed pretty good. It allowed me to get all of that stuff on there. It took a little bit of time. There were some options, but still I'm lashing to fabric. I wasn't able to lash to a frame as like I want to. Mm-hmm. And because I'm so creative, and my dad's a truck driver and lashed down a lot of loads and had me do the same thing. I got it on there and got it all tied down really well and stuff. But that's, again, I keep going back. The same thing happened to me in Kodiak hunting mountain goat.
Yeah.
And I end up wanting to strap a lot of stuff on the outside auxiliary to the main load. And I don't have that capacity because the bag squishes and moves, So it's pretty cool that this is how it's running. So Dave has been now running with you guys for a while, and did you guys change stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we did as we went along. So for us, a lot of it, with it being such a technically advanced frame, we can actually take the fibers of the carbon fiber that's, it's fabric, and we can direct which way we want those fibers to go to increase strength. So, for example, if you think about where Dave's carrying it, or where you're carrying the rifle, right? This way, think of a diving board. You go on a diving board, boom, it bounces,
it bends
right?
one direction.
You turn it this way, you're not bending it.
Right.
It's the same thing with our frame. The way we've designed the fibers
right.
to go in a certain
Same with
direction.
like an arrow. Like they go a certain way, and then they can withstand a certain pressure.
Yeah. So, throughout the whole testing phase, there's so many different layers. There's over 14 different layers of material in this thing. And it's not just carbon. It's a carbon composite blend that we use. And we reinforce it in certain areas where it's high areas of strength or stretch, or where you're going to have, a lot of weight bearing areas. So we we really heavy duty reinforce those areas, and we run the fibers in a direction to support the demand on that. So yeah, we've changed it. We launched it with frame, what was it, 14? Gen 14?
Yep.
And we're on now 17 or 18. We're on 18 now.
Wow. Okay.
And it's just been minor tweaks.
So what is the Initial Ascent user base? What's been the feedback? What's that community like?
I mean, it's been a little bit of learning, right, how to use the pack. Because back to what you were describing, a lot of folks are familiar just going as far out as they possibly can. So I think once Dave kind of introduced that new way of hauling, we've had tons of people start to do that direction. You know, for a lot of people, it would be difficult for them to carry the kind of weight, right?
Yeah.
2 elk quarters. And
Deer, no
problem,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's perfect for the average Joe to run it and carry it just like that. So the feedback's been fantastic from a weight carrying capacity. It's just been through the roof.
And then what about on just the bag designs and stuff? You've made a lot of iterations there, I assume.
Yeah, we've made a few for sure. So our flagship is our IA4K, and what we've done, and it's based on how Joe and I actually hunt, or most of our experience has been packing in certain amount of miles and then creating a spike camp there and then hunting out of that by day. And so what we did with the pack was we actually would go in there with the big bag, the 4K, the lid, and we also had our pannier load carrier. It's basically a load sling. It's got a big pocket on it. It's got some webbing straps, compression straps on it as well. So essentially, if you run that with the lid, you've got the perfect day pack. And also, when you get that animal down, you're packing it back to camp. You can gather your camp, sandwich the big bag, or sandwich that load with the big bag, and you're off and running. So that was one of the things that we designed for the way we like to hunt. And
that's a cool idea.
Yeah, you get there, you set up your camp, you take your 4K bag off, and then you've got the pannier and you've got the lid, and you're running. It's light, it's fast. You've got just your essentials.
What about your load hauling? Is that part of that?
What do you mean?
When you talk about your pannier.
Yes.
Okay. Is that where you're talking about having your load hauling?
Yeah, that's the meat shelf.
Meat shelf.
Yep,
Yes.
That's the meat shelf. And it's got a big pocket on there. I think it's a 450 cubic inch pocket on the outside. So I can take my kill kit, my puffy jacket, my spotter, my tripod, everything that I'm going to need, my food for the day, everything I'm going to need for the day, I'm ready to go.
That's pretty slick. But you can keep everything kind of organized back at your tent. Just leave it right there.
Sure.
Right. Exactly. And really the only time we're going to pack that big bag with the way we do things.
Yeah.
When
you got the whole kit
when we're
with
going.
You,
yeah, we're going back out. So it's been really versatile that way. And our system, since it is a modular system, you can use it in day mode. You can use the 4K, the 6K, the 2K that we now have. You can do all those systems on that same frame and suspension.
And when you're talking 4K, 6K, 2K, like 6,000 cubic inches, 2,000, 4,000, is that?
And those aren't the exact numbers. Like the 2K is about 2,500 cubic inches. The 4K is around 46 and some change. And then the 6K is, it goes up to 67, I think.
Yeah.
It's the latest measurement on that.
Okay.
So yeah, it didn't sound good saying, 2.5K.
Right.
All that. So
Right. You said it's like a 6K series, a 4K.
Yeah,
2K.
it's a marketing thing.
So, I want to mess with that. I want to try that. I like that, just getting rid of the bag, setting it there, leaving it organized, right? Because I have what I take off with and what I leave at base camp. In my gear kit, always organized that way because there's a whole bunch I'm going to ditch, and then I always need to have with me no matter what. And I have the same thing, but with camera kit, because I have all of that plus a lot of camera gear. I always have that efficiently organized so I can, but of course, the way I've run it in the past, I haven't been able to leave. I have to take it all out of my pack, but I have it in pull-outs and load bags, organized in my pack. But being able to just have the pack be there with zippers and everything organized. I like that. One thing that Ryan and I both do is typically pull the top lid off our pack, and that goes right next to the head of our sleeping bag, because everything like from toothbrush, some supplements, things that we're going to get into, our spoons, matches, like just that stuff that we're always getting in and out of right there in the teepee next to the stove and everything. We like it just right there. So I don't have to go digging through my bag to find all my stuff. It's always in the top lid. Yeah. And all those essentials are almost always going with me when I go on my hunt too. So I just have that stuff just always there.
Yep. Yep. And that's, our lid is easily.
Your lid's pretty legit.
It's easily removable. It holds a lot of stuff. It's about 500 cubic inches. And, one thing that with the lid, I don't know if you know this or not, but if you're a bladder guy, we've got a hidden bladder pocket under there that fits a 2-liter low profile bladder.
Really?
Yeah. We designed it to make sure you could carry your bladder up there out of the main bag. Because I've had that happen 3 or 4 times where I get a bladder burst inside my bag and it just makes a mess. But carry it up there. Again, you're carrying it high. You're carrying it close.
Yeah. It doesn't get smashed.
It doesn't get smashed. And, you can, with a little quick connect, you can take and hook if you're using a filter system.
It's also a pain in the ass to fill it. You pull off, you're doing this hike, and now you got to try to fill that thing up on a creek bed as you're walking through. You still got 2 miles to your base camp, and it's like you got to unpack the whole friggin' thing, undo the straps, reduce the tension, pull it out, fill. No.
That's
often why we don't use bladders,
right?
Ryan and I. Now we still pack them, but we'd run them loose a lot, those hydro packs and stuff. But I'm curious. Yeah, I'd like to check that out and see, because
there's a lot of guys that like that. And, I know when I'm running a bladder, that's my preferred method. Now, I do carry a different filter system when I do that. I'll carry like a Sawyer squeeze or something like that.
Right.
And, take that quick connect and you can plug it right in there. You don't have to take your bladder out. You can filter it right into the bladder and then undo it and then hook your hose back up and you're off and running. It's really fast.
Yeah.
But, here the last couple of seasons, I've actually run a bottle myself in the Steri pen, and I really like that.
I do too.
So,
you guys have a lot of pockets too around the hip and everything. You can get different pockets, different sizes for different needs on the hip belt.
Yeah, so I mean, we
see a couple.
Yeah, we have a goes on the side, just a hip belt pouch. The nice thing about it is larger though than I would say most.
It also maintains shape.
It does.
That's one thing that's annoying. I don't know if people do it because companies do it because of weight, but you reach in and you're trying to unzip those things, and it's like trying to unzip a gunny sack with a zipper on it, and you're like, and you got this heavy load, and you're like zipping while you're walking because you're trying to keep up with Ryan Lampert, but you just want a frickin' like gummy, okay? And so you're trying to get in there, and you're like, and then you get it out, and you're like, did I dump everything out? And you're like, trying to zip it shut again, and it won't zip. And it's like a two-handed jobber. But then on yours, I was like, one of the first things I noticed was how it stays in shape and it just rolls right across the top. I'm like, dude, why don't more companies do this kind of thing?
Yeah, it's got some structure to it. And the way we attach it onto the 2-inch webbing on our hip belt, we actually secure it down with Velcro on the back of it, which makes a lot of sense.
Does it make any noise?
No, it makes no noise. And once you put it on there, it's there.
It's rock solid.
Yeah, it's rock solid.
Doesn't move at you at all. And what I do a lot of times with that is I'll have that. I'm left-handed shooting wise, but I'm truly a right-handed person. So I'm naturally going to carry my rifle on my right side. So I'm going to run it up over through the notch on the frame. But then I have that hip belt pouch, and I'll run my gunsling down and around it.
I wondered about that.
It is rock solid. I mean, I can move, twist, whatever, binos, totally
and get it off
hands-free,
quickly.
And get it off quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, I've run different brands have their different slings, right, that are auxiliary that you buy and you attach and stuff. You know what I end up doing? I end up just strapping it on.
Yeah.
Because it can always just shift or come loose, or the strap pops out and your gun falls down, it's like.
Yeah.
And so I like this idea because with the way that I'm not worried about my gun falling off.
Right.
And I gotta tell you, in bear country, it's creepy having your gun strapped to your pack.
Oh, yeah.
You can't get down quickly. And then I don't want some job where I got to pull the lever, pull it down. And, the way that you're talking is truly truly versatile.
Yeah.
It's a reverse notch. If you look at that notch, it actually goes the reverse so that webbing strap on your gunsling slides into it, and it kind of locks it. So when you pull it out, you just twist it up.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll even take, especially if I'm hiking in, I'll take and do just what Joe said, wrap it around that. So you put the buttstock in behind the pouch, you put the sling on the other side of the pouch, it locks it in. I'll take and slip my arm out, and then it's just behind me. It's still locked, and then if I need it, I can just grab it like that.
Right.
But then I'm just free to trekking pole.
It's not coming off of that hook.
Because I'm using trekking poles.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's how I am too. It's like, I don't
go without them.
No.
Yeah. They're not packed in my pack. I'm using those dudes, man.
Yeah, that's right. Ryan was joking about that yesterday on a podcast we recorded yesterday. He's like, there was a time when I made fun of people who use poles. It's like those days. Now I make fun of people who don't, because it's so efficient and useful, and that's how you keep from getting injured, and we're carrying loads, Yeah. And the efficiency, it's just up there. So, show me one or two of these packs. Kind of walk me through one of these things.
So this is the 4K.
That's pretty.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
It's a good looking pack.
Yep.
Yeah. So you've got 3 ways to get into the bag. This is our lid we were talking about. You can go in from the top right there, and then on either side you've got zippers that run down either side. So the reason we did that is because, number one, we didn't want to have to take everything out to try to reach something that was right here. And for instance, I will keep my jet boil in this spot right here. So if I want to reach in there and get it, then I just undo the couple.
Are you addicted to coffee too?
I am.
Yeah, pretty much. But I know where it's at, right?
It's always right there.
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be a cup made every 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So floating lid, so these can unroll and go way up here, for the type loads you guys are carrying for sure. A couple of compression straps. We do have a couple of expandable pockets.
Ryan
one up
loves
here,
those.
one down here. Yeah, you can just shove your puffy. Anything you need to get to quickly, you can get to.
I honestly haven't ran a pack that's had one. XO makes one like that, and Ryan loves that part about their design. But I haven't really extended use any of those. So
it really ups your cubic inches too, because all of it comes this way versus, if you use traditional Cordura material, it's going to push in on the inside. So you get more storage space with having this type of material.
Yeah, for sure. As far as side pockets go, we've got a long Cordura pocket right here on this side with an expandable pocket on the outside. So typically that's designed for spotting scope. This side here, we actually did a half Cordura pocket there. Yeah. So quick access to your tripod. You've got a compression strap right there. You just loosen it up, slip your tripod down in there and tighten it up. So it's real quick access.
Yeah.
So if I'm going from point to point, sometimes I'll leave my spotter attached to my tripod and then it's really quick to get it out.
Often on our stones, we'll run the butt of the rifle down in the bottom pocket, strap it to the side. Now, we don't have heavy rifles because of that Weatherby. It's just tiny. Your backcountry TI, it's tiny. But it's still, though, 6 pounds with the scope on it.
Right.
It's still a load point, right?
Right.
But I like what you're describing. We'll put that weight right up there over that hip in a way that ours right now sticks 4 or 5 inches off. Yeah. And I never put it on the back.
Right. Can't get to it.
Just like, not only that, why do you want that weight as far off of your back as you can get it? We want it up against our body as much as possible.
Right.
That's why bows, I like mounting them to the side just so they have a little more weight there. But often it ends up getting mounted on the back.
It does.
Because that's how it rides the best.
Yeah, and for that, or for guys that like to carry the rifle on the back, we do have our attachments for our accessories right there. And
you have like a bow pocket.
Yeah, we've got a bow pocket and a rifle carrier as well. So,
yep. So only the thing I would say is one of the things that we added into this.
Can I see this?
Yeah, if you think about the tent industry, for example, right, they do a great job of managing complexity. Which pole goes to which? How do you tie this down?
Right.
So when we started looking at this, realizing, okay, there's a few buckles here. How do we manage that better? We said, well, let's color code the bar tacking. So you can see
That's
up
genius.
here, you've got orange bar tack goes to orange bar tack, right? Well, this one here, this isn't attached to the bag, so there's no orange bar tack. Orange bar tack goes to orange bar tack. So that carries throughout on the pack to give you some management of it.
Wow.
And then, I'm sure
That's pretty smart.
Yeah. And then you think about how many times have you been on a hunt? I've seen it on some of your guys' films where you guys have done it. We've all done it. You drop your pack, you put a stock on, right? And next thing you know, it's evening and you've gone 1 ridge, 2 ridge, you get an animal.
Yep.
And then you're like, where'd I put my pack? So we did a reflective handle. So with your headlamp,
Wow.
you're going to find that on the side of a mountain.
Hey, that's pretty genius. That's pretty genius. I like
glows.
that because does that really
Oh, it pops.
save you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that. Yeah, no, that would, especially at night, right? Because
Right.
you are looking for it in the dark and it's got nothing reflective on
It's
it.
camouflage in this case.
Yeah. So, okay.
And you can see the 3-point locking system there as well.
What's
So
that?
that 3-point locking system that Joe referred to before. Right here, you've got a webbing strap here. You've got your Velcro there that's hard and fast to your frame.
Yep.
And then as well, you've got this that goes through
Right
those
through the center of
notches.
the frame.
Yep.
Yep.
And that looks pretty easy to adjust.
It is.
Pretty easy to mess around with.
Yeah.
So tell me about the hip belt because that's a point where a lot of people, I mean, it's a major part.
Sure.
Right? Because so much of that load carries down there. Yep. So what's the story on that? Because you already told me about the lumbar pad here.
Yep.
So what's the whole thing with the?
So on the hip belt design, a couple things that we did is we actually ended up doing a 2-stage design for the hip belt. This is adjustable. So I can pull this down like this, and then I can move this hip belt up, the lumbar pad up.
You just move it like 2
or
inches.
I can take it down lower.
Okay.
And I've got inside here, I've got a 1/2-inch high density foam, and then we've got the soft foam that rides against your back. So when you're carrying the weights like you are, you've got to have the rigidity of a stiffer foam, but you want the comfort for everyday wear. So you get that with this 2-stage foam.
That's pretty cool.
So, and you've got the flexibility. We have some people that say, hey, it's a little bit too much for me. Well, they can pull some of that out, or they could do a thinner foam piece inside there.
Okay.
So
I like how substantial that is too.
Yep.
Like some companies don't put it's like they don't commit to the lumbar pad.
Yeah, and it's
Like,
super important.
I mean, my butt, I got a little shelf there,
Yep.
but I still need a little help to keep 100 pounds from sliding down. What the hell are these guys thinking?
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah, and
I
I think,
just,
back to you with it sliding, you can feel this. We've got a
The
tough
non-slip.
grip, non-slip on there. So even if you get a little bit sweaty,
yeah.
with that tough grip on there, it rides really nice where it should and stays there.
So what's the, how about this, your belt pad here? What's with the shape here? Why?
Yeah, so with that one there, as you can see, it's kind of forms around, right? And that's one of the things with it. You wear it, it's going to form even a little bit more over time.
With some companies just make these just as thick as hell, and that's their solution.
Right. Yeah. With ours here, we tried to really design this both for function, for heavy weights, but also for comfort. So we felt like having this here. This is we've gone to a 3/4 inch on here. It's 2 different foams. It's a 1/2-inch foam plus a 1/4 inch foam that's glued together. So you get a little bit softer feel up against your hips.
Yep.
When we originally launched, it was a full 1 inch. So we've actually reduced this material a little bit to give more comfort in the lumbar.
That's been my experience. A lot of times, a little bit thinner are the ones that are more comfortable than those super just padded.
Super bulky.
Right. But there's always a fine line, there, because if you're carrying 180 pounds out, there is that fine line, because if you get too thin there, all of a sudden that's starting to dig in and pinch.
Cuts off circulation sometimes.
Right.
Certain packs, I won't be able to feel the blood flow to my lower extremities. So
Yeah, so that was a happy compromise there for us, and it's worked really well.
Yeah. And it's a pull forward design. It's not the old fashioned mom and pop where you're
right.
getting a hernia on the left and the right as you're trying to pull it forward. So
one of the other things I noticed right off the bat with it were the shoulder straps because they're not straight.
Yep.
And there's quite a few companies that just make them straight, like they don't some, like Mr. Ranch, I'd say, and a few others, they're actually quite dramatic, you know. So how did you come up with this?
I think that was probably just a lot of drawing and putting cardboard up against, cardboard and paper basically up against your body just to see how it would wrap around the normal person's body. And we wanted a little bit of a wrap, definitely not straight. It needed to be contoured. And the one thing about other packs that I had owned, I had seen it all over the board, right? And so I'd seen the straight ones like you talk about. I'd seen the ones that are more contoured. And I think just came up with a nice happy medium there.
Yeah, and if you think about, Brian, when you put it on there, to Dennis's point, when we were designing this, we want it to ride right in your pocket right here, right in your shoulder, right?
Yeah.
That natural spot. Because what will happen is sometimes if they're straight, then it starts to ride way far out here or it rides too close in.
Yep.
So if you can see, it fits perfectly right there in your shoulder.
Yeah, it doesn't
pockets.
dig in over here at all.
Right.
It's coming right over. Sometimes some of the packs I run right now, they'll cut off the circulation on especially where I run my camera right here. And it sits on my strap. And so it's not a heavy camera, but the peak design clip I often put here so I can get to it. Because if if it's not easy to get to, you don't film.
Right.
I'm running up a hill or running down a hill and Ryan's in front of me. If I can't grab it, it's not getting. So I have to carry it. But what happens often is as I do carry it, it ends up being, it ends up cutting off just the side with that little extra weight is all it takes. Mm-hmm. And now I'm getting no blood flow. There's pinching something right there. And with the load lifters being better, because it really happens when the load's heavy, right? Because now it's gone flat.
Right.
And no matter what, even though it's a 26-inch frame, it's just the load is heavy. Yep. And so now it's flat, and I have no adjustability beyond that. And it's rare but Ryan and I, we hiked 10 miles out. Well, with 150 pounds, 10 miles, that's miserable.
Yeah.
So I'm always like undoing the strap or taking the camera off and holding it in my hand, and using one trekking pole and trying to get the back and then putting it back on. So I'm curious, how this will do, but I like the idea that when the load gets that stupid, I could actually adjust it one more notch higher with the load lifter. I'm really excited about running it and trying it just because of, I like how it feels. The weight distributes across the back. The whole thing feels good. It has the feel of a pack that handles stupid heavy loads. Yeah. And, Dave had his pack on the train to hunt before he went and did his thing. Yeah. And I'm sure that was a great pack. I don't know what he was using at the time, but then when he throws it on here, there's a difference between those packs that can hold those stupid heavy loads and are comfortable versus the ones that don't. Now, I mentioned to you on the phone, Dennis, that it feels like it could be a little stiffer when it's not heavily loaded down because of the way it is, but that doesn't bother me. That's not where I need it to. Right. I don't need it to form to my body as I walk around.
To me,
I need it to carry those stupid weights.
And for me, in the development of it, that was another part of my back issue. I had to feel some stability. Okay, so not only does the hip belt and the lumbar provide that stability, but also the security. I don't feel like I'm just floundering around.
Right.
And the bag doesn't feel like it's moving all over the place.
Yeah, I like that because you're saying with your back problems, having it stay put.
Yeah. It just gives me security. And then I can go more confidently.
Right. When I was on Kodiak and I did the podcast with Kevin Tim from Seek Outside, he's another one of those guys that just builds crazy stuff, from the teepees and the stoves to the packs. And he's approached it from a different standpoint. But the first time I used it, it had a floating harness and a floating hip belt. And it was great when it was 50 pounds. And then I put a whole goat in my bag plus my camp. And I was like, oh, this thing's hard to carry because it moved a lot. Yeah. So now we've restrained all that stuff there's a restraining,
Locks it into place.
locks it in, locks the harness, locks the hip belt into place, and you can mess around with it. So I'm doing a little bit of that, but
Awesome.
it's important. I'm like, I understand how some people want it to feel like it's like part of their body or something, I guess. But
Yeah, these aren't just backpacks.
well, I don't ever carry anything light.
Right.
We don't go for 2 days.
Yeah.
I'm going for 10-day hunts, usually at a minimum, carrying all my food with me. Plus, what a lot of people don't realize is my camera lens, just the lens I use to film animals, is like 9 pounds just for the lens.
Wow.
That doesn't include the camera, the batteries, doesn't include my second camera body, doesn't include the lenses I use for that camera, it doesn't include the heavy-duty tripod I use so I can get long-range footage that's not shaking all over the place. Like, all of it adds up. So you add that kit, there's like 22 pounds or something, on top of what everybody counts with already.
Yeah.
I need something that can carry the heavy stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely. So that's,
And the fact that it's this light,
yeah, I mean, you're under 6 pounds with this.
crazy.
You know, it is crazy. So that's the 4. We have the 6K, which is basically this same configuration, just a little bit bigger. To Dennis's point, it's probably more true to about 6,700 when it's all said and done.
Yep.
So, if somebody's going on an expedition type hunt where they're going to be out for, 10 days, something like that, it's designed for that.
That's
type
what
of hunt.
I need to try it, run that.
Yeah. And then we have the 2000, which is a little bit different configuration. Where is it? It's over here.
Got it behind you?
Yeah. So this is a little bit different configuration. Now, the beauty is it works off that same platform, right? Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Dennis. Works
Same
off
frame.
the same frame and suspension. So you can literally take that bag off and put this bag on. And that's one of the joys of it. You can use the 2, the 4, the 6. We have a decoy hauler bag that attaches on.
Dude,
here.
I love how this strap is right in that frame, this carry strap.
Yeah.
I just ripped mine off, my stone, because I load it heavy. It's stitched to the fabric.
Oh, so when you picked
And so I don't remember. I mean, I had a lot of weight in 140,
Right.
and I picked it up to move it and ripped out. And you're like, man. And I always worried about it doing that just because of the fact that I'm moving my whole 140-pound pack on a strap that's just sewn to a piece of fabric.
Yep.
And here, you have it in the frame where all that load is carrying. I could never see this failing.
No, it's going with you.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that's the smaller pack. It's it's a different platform. It's on a U-shaped zipper, which gives you the flexibility.
How do you like the zippers you guys are using?
So these are YKK waterproof zippers. They're, from a waterproof perspective, it really sets the bar for the industry.
But your bag's not waterproof, is it?
It's not. If you look inside the material in our Cordura, it's got a water-resistant coating on it.
I see. Yep.
So, it does a good job. But we make a rain cover. So if you're up in Alaska where it rains, 9 out of the 10 days you're there, we've got rain covers that fit all of our bags.
Yes. What's this here?
That's a water drain. So when this was developed, what I was doing was actually taking my water filter and putting it down in there, and so any excess water or rain gear would drain out the bottom.
Yeah, that makes sense because this is the sort of pocket you're going to shove your rain gear in and other stuff, and that's cool.
So for somebody
You're a
that's
pretty smart guy, Dennis.
I'll take that.
It's assuming you came up with it. I mean, I'm wanting to steal the thunder from Joe here.
No, we'll give all the credit Dennis on that.
No, I think there was another gentleman that came up with that grommet.
Oh,
there.
yep.
I think Michael Batiste.
Michael Batiste.
Yeah, Elk Calling Academy came up
really?
with that grommet.
He tested this pack
I can't
a bunch
take credit
us.
for that.
So this sleeve right here, is that like a...
Yeah, it's for water bladder because we don't have the lid with this one. Now you can run the lid with it, and we have some 2K straps and that actually makes it.
What is this weigh, Joe?
So that's just right at 5 pounds.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, just under.
Yeah, 4.95, I believe.
Yeah. But yeah,
so
we've
do
got
you
some-
make a top lid that you could adapt to this?
It's the same one.
Same
Oh.
Yeah, you just use the same one, and we've got some 2K lid straps, and then all of a sudden you've got a
You got your-
3K, 3,000 cubic inch bag. And I've used that over the last year. I've used that quite a bit just for weekend trips,
Well,
2-3 day.
all right. Well, this is just something I need to play with.
Yeah.
I need to put it through some paces and load it up, and I just think it's cool. I'm glad that you guys we were able to connect and go over it. And
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
anyone that's listening, they can find Initial Ascent. What's your website?
It's just initialascent.com.
And
Instagram.
Instagram. Are you guys on there quite a bit?
Yeah.
That's where I see a lot of your stuff.
Yep.
And then I have my brother-in-law. He loves your stuff, and he's on your email newsletter.
Oh, good.
Oh, awesome.
And he's been on it for a long time.
Well, I
He's
hope
like, I don't know how I got on there, but they email me all the time. And he's
I
like,
hope
it's
he
cool.
likes what's going on.
So how do people sign up for the newsletter?
You can just go to the website, and they'll something will pop up, and they can sign up for it right there. So
Okay. And then what's your guys' kind of warranty and return rates and stuff like that?
it's a great question.
Yeah, so we actually offer a lifetime warranty on it, which you think about it, we look at this no differently as, a gun, optics. It's an investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
This should last you. Case in point, you take Dave. The gentleman, he's packed, let's just say he packs 10 animals a season, which is probably quite a bit more.
Yeah.
That's a lifetime for most people right there.
Right.
So we do a lifetime warranty on it. If there is a manufacturer defect in the bag, we're going to take care of it. Absolutely. So, yeah.
Dude, that's ballsy but thinking about it, I don't see how anyone's going to break this frame.
Well, I was going to say, if you back over that thing with your pickup truck, and it just happens to break, we're sending you a new one for sure.
It's not a long list, of those occurrences. So then, and it looks like wear and tear, the bag is going to hold up. You're saying Dave is putting it through basically a lifetime of use for the normal Joe, and it's still rocking.
It's bonded on
That's
the inside. All the seams are bonded.
So it's like a buy once, you're going to be good.
Yeah.
You're good.
That's cool, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that. Okay, so folks, go check out Initial Ascent. I'm gonna rock this on a bunch of the hunts. Start using them right away. I know Ryan has talked to you guys quite a bit, and back at the summits and stuff. And
Yep.
I'm glad he introduced us because I think this is a pretty cool little setup here. And then I'll still run all the stuff I already got, but I'm looking forward to running that Seek Outside as well, and just getting some experience with some new stuff.
Yeah. Try to pack
So-
some quarters. I know you're not a bone-in guy.
I do love the bone in,
Yeah.
but I want the bone in because I do so much bone marrow. I think I do
there you
a
go.
lot more than Ryan
Yeah.
does.
So you got to try that out.
But it always ends up being the cost of the weight.
Right.
But again, if it adds an extra pound or two in each leg, but then at the same time
it carries.
carries way
better.
better, it cancels out,
Yep.
and I
Yeah.
get to keep the bones.
You get to keep the bones.
Absolutely.
So I also like the idea of being able to just load your whole bag up, and then your meat doesn't take up space in the bag
right.
with it hanging right there.
Exactly.
It's a fascinating idea. And at first, I'm skeptical, but then once I look at it and I'm like, actually, you stumble on something maybe that's like real revolutionary.
Yeah.
Didn't even know it.
It's all Dave. Dave did that. I came up with that. I guess up on the mountain for years, he's taken a meat pole and just cut a meat pole and put it between the backpack.
He's nuts.
Put it between the backpack and his neck back there with hindquarters on both sides and carried it out like that.
Like a squat bar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Why am I not surprised? Why?
He's an animal.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Let's we're going to wrap it up, I guess, folks. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. Check it out. Go to Initial Ascent. Check that out. And then stay tuned because I'm going to keep testing it out, and we'll let you know what we think after each hunt this season that we rock it on. And I appreciate you guys coming down and joining me.
Thanks for
It's
having
fun.
us.
us.
Appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
All right, guys, stay gritty.